And welcome to today's webinar, and it is on the ecological practices for players transitioning from red to orange. I hope we're all well. First of all, apologies, I'm a little bit croaky. I am full of cold. My entire household has come down with the flu. I don't feel too bad, but my throat's a bit sore. I definitely sound like I've got a really deep bass voice, so apologies for that. Today's webinar I actually presented last week at the time of recording at the PTR UK Coaches Conference in Lee Valley in London. And we were going to film elements of the presentation. It was a bit difficult. We had like torrential rain, even though we were indoors, the acoustics was pretty bad. And the way we set the courts up and stuff, it was a little bit of a nightmare. So what I thought I'd do is rather than just give you the recording of the conference presentation, just sit down at home today and just go through the presentation slides. And I filmed a lot of the practices with a player as well this week. So we've got some live player sort of practices to show you as well. But just to go through it, obviously you know who I am, so I can skip past this. Been coaching a long time, coach developer, love ecological dynamics now. I'm not amazing, and this was something that came from the conference. So the first speaker of the day was a speaker called David Wilson from Ireland, and he did a great presentation about the illusion of learning. And just because we see teaching doesn't mean learning's taken place. And he talked a lot about social media. And what he said in there was, yeah, there's a lot of social media tennis coaches out there now who just promote how amazing they are, and 90% of the content is pretty bad. It's pretty poor. And I thought that was really good. And I generally start a lot of my presentations off with, I'm not telling you how to coach. This is just how I coach. This is what's worked for me. It might not work for you. It might not work in your club or with your players, but take what resonates with you, bring it back to your club, change it, make it your own. And if something doesn't resonate with you, then fine. Don't have to sort of take on board everything that we will go through. So I really like that part about not being amazing. And that's what I want to really sort of touch upon as well, is I think I've developed much more as a coach by challenging the status quo, by challenging traditional coaching, by challenging the basket feeding, the demonstrations, stuff that's been around for hundreds of years. And I think that's where I've really pushed on as a coach over the past 4 years. So hopefully in this presentation as well, it's going to give you some new things to think about, especially when you're moving players on from red to orange. And yeah, a big, huge thanks to David Wilson. Please look him up online. If you Google David Wilson tennis, he's got lots of great articles about bringing teaching and learning methods, methodology, pedagogy into tennis coaching. So yeah, really interesting thing. And I just added those two things in last minute, last week at the conference. So what I want us to explore in today's webinar, today's presentation, really understand the importance of environment and culture. Now, I've been doing lots of research over the past few months, and I've gone to quite a few conferences myself. And I've listened to a lot of conversations with coaches and a lot of presentations. And one thing that keeps coming out for me is just culture, environment. Environment shapes the player, not so much the direct coaching, but it's everything that's around the player is really what shapes the individual. So I think I want to sort of look at that today from a red point of view, and look at why we get red possibly quite wrong, and how we can improve the environment and culture which these players are learning in. Look at ecological dynamics and constraint-led ideas. Again, using the game to prepare the players better for orange, because orange is quite a big step up. And then look at some practice designs that I've been using. And the clips I'm going to show you today are with a player who's only been playing 8 months, a couple of lessons a week now. But and you'll see it's not perfect. It's not like she's at a very high standard, but just showing you the practices I put in place, and the intention behind those as well, which we'll talk through. Apologies, I'm going to probably cough quite a bit through this presentation. Talking with a dry throat, it's not great. But our environment shapes us. There's a great quote on there by W. Clement Stone. You are a product of your environment. So choose the environments that best develop you towards your objective, which is, again, from a coach's point of view, that's what we do. We are creators of the tennis coaching learning environment, and something that I don't think we take for granted. We're so obsessed with the game, the task, we don't really take consideration how much impact the environment has. And I say this all the time, we can both take the same practice, the same task, the same drill, and we can do it in different environments and have completely different results, because the environment really shapes the impact of the task. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So even though I'll show quite a few practices, I'm more thinking about what type of environment I'm creating for the player. That's a great quote. So what does a traditional red lesson look like? And this is based on me. And some of the practices I'm going to talk through now, I still seen this week, been coaching at various centers this week. I still see it. But this is what a traditional red lesson looks like. And again, the question here is it the right environment for players to thrive? Isolated and static stroke development. So we teach in isolation at Red. And again, the idea behind it, the philosophy behind it, is that they are beginners. We need to teach beginners fundamentals. We've got to give them the basic movement solutions. And again, most coach education talks about sort of isolating it, breaking it down, letting them learn something, a part of it, and then progressing it and adding layers on to sort of develop it. So it's very isolated. Also at red tennis, you find a lot that we tend to have like shots of the week. Forehand week 1, backhand week 2, volley week 3, serve if you're lucky, week 4, return, match play. So we tend to isolate and just have a shot of the week where we'll just look and focus on one thing. And again, traditional coach education, teaching point. Okay, we're going to work on contact point in the forehand today. We don't want multiple teaching points because it's too much for the player to take in. So let's isolate a single point or a single shot and work on that. But the general issue is, especially if these kids, and we're not looking at performance kids here, we're looking at sort of hit and giggle recreational kids. If they're only coming once a week, okay, we might only work on the forehand week 1, but then we might not touch upon the forehand again for another 6 weeks. What happens if I miss week 1? I might not see the forehand for 12, 13 weeks. And again, the mindset of a traditional coach is, okay, I'll work on contact point today, then I'll work on maybe preparation or follow through the week after. And we think in this very linear process of, if I fix this, then I can fix this, then I can fix this. And we believe that's how we can build a player up, like it's some type of program, or building a house. Is again, the building of a house is always the analogy. You've got to lay the foundations first, and then we put the bricks down, then put the windows in. Learning's not that simple, and learning's more messy and chaotic, and especially with movement skill, you can't decouple movement skill. You can't break it down. And again, that's something that, again, the traditional methodology of coaching really obsesses about, breaking things down with the belief we can put it back into practice. But again, science and research shows us we can't. Large number of players are caught. So again, red is generally seen as a cash cow. Okay, we can get 4 mini courts on a full-size tennis court, 4 players per court, 16 per court. Absolute goldmine. Each playing £10 an hour. That's a good income. I paid a coach £20, £160 income, nice profit, happy days. And yes, you can get more mini nets onto a tennis court. Yes, you can get more players onto a tennis court, but think about the impact that has on the player development. So the red stage, especially, it's designed for a single player to put to play on a full red court. By isolating them in a half court, they'll get very good playing half court tennis. And again, this is a myth of coach education of, okay, well, if they're struggling in such a big space, let's reduce it and reduce it and reduce it and reduce it, and we get smaller, 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 smaller. But we have reduced it already. They're not playing on a full-size tennis court. They're playing on a red-size court that's designed for the aging stage of the player. By reducing it further or making it really tight, and again, just think about it from a tennis point of view. Hitting the ball down the line is a very difficult shot. Why? Highest part of the net, smallest angle, smallest distance as well. So we're getting players into an environment which is actually really challenging. And then when you open it up and they play full court, they haven't got the transferable skills because they're so used to the perception and action being in quite a narrow space. When you open that space and you widen the perception, it's a different game. And therefore, like, if you think about your red players, they may stay on red stage tennis for 4 years. And for those 4 years, they play in half a court, half a red court. Every now and then, you might go full court. And then you go to orange, and the court's massive. It's so much bigger. And we wonder why they struggle with the perception and the movement skills at orange. Because you've made the court huge. And they've gone from literally half a red court to half an orange court, which is massive and it's longer. And again, even at orange, you don't want to play half court orange because again, angle, net height, size of the space, technically or movement wise, very difficult to hit the ball down the line. There's a reason why most of tennis is played cross court because of the angle and stuff like that. So large player on court is not great for player development. Great for money, great for commercialism, but not great for player development. And we normally give the inexperienced coach the reds. So again, the mindset of a head coach is, well, I've got this new coach. He or she or they or inexperienced. I'll get my inexperienced coach. I don't want to put them with the experienced players because they might get found out. They might not know what to work on. I'll put them with the inexperienced players. So you've got two inexperienced people and you expect them to get results. I believe this is one of the most difficult stages to work with because of the inexperience, because the players are still physically and psychologically developing. They're still quite limited in what they can do physically and psychologically as well. And you're giving them the inexperienced coach who probably won't understand that. And with a lot of inexperienced coaches, the way they coach is they'll copy the senior coaches. So the senior coaches who are working with the adults or working with the yellow ball, the performance squads, they'll just copy those sessions and try and transfer it into the red sessions. And it doesn't work because the age and stage is different. The demands of the game is different. The players are different. So therefore, you've almost got this situation where you've got two groups of inexperienced people and we expect them to get results. And last but not least, expectations. The expectations of, let's talk about the coach first and foremost, and the parents as well, but like the expectations of how quick learning takes place. So we go to a tennis lesson, and again, I don't like the word lesson no more, but like we go to tennis lessons and we believe we should see improvement in that session. If we don't see improvement in the session, either the coach isn't doing their job properly or the player's not working hard enough. And what happens is because we have this expectation of if I show you what to do, you should be able to do it within a couple of goes. We have this expectation of, okay, if we don't see the learning taking place, we panic and then we isolate. We break things down until the player can get some success. One, for the player to feel good. Two, for the coach to justify their money. And three, to appease the parents. So we have this expectation of learning, but learning takes time. It goes back to the shot of the week. Like, I'm not going to learn the forehand in a week. I'm not going to learn a backhand. I'm not going to learn how to play tennis in 6 weeks. So we have this expectation of, okay, we have to regiment things and make things look like again, the illusion of learning. We have to look like learning's taking place. And what's that look like? Very military style lessons with the coach barking orders, coach doing lots of demonstrations, lots of interventions, coach putting players into situations where they find success. But because we have this false expectation, it's one of the excuses coaches use with me all the time. I'd love to do ecological dynamics, but it takes time and the parents to get really annoyed or my head coach to get really annoyed. So I just want to sort of just do the basket drilling because we can see success straight away. We can see the player achieve success really, really quickly. I had it the other week in a coaches meeting where the coach had a video of a player. They were struggling in a game situation. So the coach then went around the other side, drop fed the player and got the player to rotate hips and shoulders. And they got instant success. And they were like, oh, look, it works. Look, like that's what we should be doing. Like the player's struggling. I've identified that they're not rotating. It's too much arm. Whether or not that's true, I'm not too sure. But then they showed him drop feed and oh my God, instant success. Look how great I am. And my question was, well, when you put that player back into the game situation, will it stick? And it didn't. So I'm like, well, why? What was the intention of doing a drop feed? What impact did it have on the player? None. It looked like it had an effect, and like the parent was loving it, and the coach again was very proud of this show as a group of coaches. And I'm like, well, it's fake. It's a illusion of learning, because once the player goes into an open situation, it's going to disappear because the situation, the environment's changed. But again, coaches like that. It's almost like the sweet, it's the candy. They want that sugar rush of, oh my God, look how amazing I am. Look at Monotoglu, for example. So I keep sniffling. I'm really sorry, but I am literally full of cold. I just gotta quickly wipe my nose. So the question there is, okay, is this the best preparation for Orange? So we isolate skill. We have loads of players on court. We're teaching shot of the week. We put in our inexperienced coaches. We try and make sure learning is taking place every single session, and it's regimented and it's quick successes. Is that the right preparation for Orange? So Orange, we have to understand, is difficult for players because the court gets a lot bigger, the ball gets quicker. They're also physically developing and psychologically developing at quite a rapid rate. And what tends to happen is when players transition to Orange, it's just too hard. And they may stay for a term and then they'll drop out because they can't really deal with the demands of the game. And there's always seems to be a rush to get through red, because you could be at red for 4 years. You could go to red at the age of 4, stay there to the age of 8 before you go to orange. And 4 years is a long time to be stuck on the baby court, to be stuck on the small court. Pardon me, to be stuck with the sponge ball. So we've got to start preparing the players for orange from day one, for starters, and we'll look at some stuff today. But in the last 12 months of their red journey, there's things we can do to get them ready to be best prepared. So we looked at what the traditional lesson would look like. And that to be honest, that was my lesson for a long, long time. That's the way I coached. I think that's why I have such a great insight here, because I've coached lots of different styles, I've coached lots of different methodologies, and I've found different ways and different approaches. And I can see the difference within the players, but also within me, but also the environment. But this is what I want my lessons to look like. So players must be encouraged to interact with the environment. So it's not about me dictating and setting a very military style environment with lots of demonstrations, lots of interventions, lots of isolated drills. I want to set games up where the player is forced to interact. And you'll see it in a few videos in a minute. And the way I introduce the game, it's okay, this is a challenge. These are the boundaries or the rules of the challenge. How the player interacts with them is completely up to them. And this again is the ecological dynamics mindset. I want to give the players information. So I want the players to have lots of different information. I want them to start using their perception skills. So look at their opponent's position, to look at the ball flights, look at their position, to start to use information, to know when to attack, when to defend, to know when to move out to the ball. I don't want it to be isolated. I want it to be a bit chaotic and a little bit messy, because I want the players to take in and start to learn to scan the environment. The players got lots of different ways to play. I don't demonstrate no more. And you'll see in the videos, like you'll see my demonstration when I just introduce the game to the player, and I'll talk through it, and I might show a little bit as well, just to get them to give them an understanding of how they can play it. But it's up to them how they play. And I want them to find multiple ways to play the game, not just a single copy and paste way. I want to give them lots of different influences as well. Can they score? Can they deal with different types of score? So can they play the game when they're behind? Can they play the game when they're in front? Can they play the game when it's even? Their opponent's going to change. The opponent will play well. They may play badly. They may be focused, determined. They may be half asleep, distracted. So can they deal with a ever-changing opponent? And that's going to be influenced by the score. And can they change different environments as well? So can they deal with playing outside? Can they deal with playing with sponge ball and playing with red felt ball? Can they deal with playing with different court sizes? Can they deal with different games and different demands? I'm trying to mix things up as much as possible. The game has to give the player decisions to make as well. So again, goes back into the options and the information. So can they use the information? Can they explore options? And now can they start making decisions? So when do they attack? When do they take 2 touches? When do they try and, or how do they try and get the ball to bounce twice? So just a few examples, which we'll cover in a minute. But the player has to make lots of decisions. And then they've got to explore multiple movement solutions. They've got to explore how to move within the game. And if you think about every practice that I'm going to show in a few minutes, like the player is doing all these things all at once. It's completely holistic. They're developing multiple skills at the same time. But if you look at those things on the board, I would probably argue against anyone who says tennis players don't need those skills. Tennis players have to be good at scanning and reading the situation. They've got to be good at identifying options. They've got to deal with different influences. They've got to be good decision makers, and they've got to have adaptable and versatile movement skills. So to me, like that's what I want my lessons to look like, or what my practices to look like. And I think if you get your red players to do these, or your red practices to be anything like this, when they go into the bigger courts, into the orange, into the green, they're going to have a wide range of skills. They're not just going to be able to hit a ball statically. And again, to me, this is what tennis players need if they want to play the game. So we're now going to see a couple of practices in action. I've got a couple of slides. First slide, it will look at the intention, then it will look at the rules of the game. And I've got a little video clip as well of me and a player. The player is 7 years of age, and you'll notice something different about the red court, and I'll talk about that in the first clip. So the first game is called the overhead 2-touch. So a big problem that I see a lot is there's not a lot of overhead work at red. It's difficult again because the spatial awareness, the coordination, the physical and psychological development, anything sort of really above head height, they struggle with. But I want them to get comfortable hitting the ball above head height. So this is a game that I play quite a lot. So the intention of the game is to allow the players to explore hitting the ball above their head at various positions. Can they adjust and adapt based on the ball they send up? So all the activities are point-based. So we're playing points. So here's the rule. The players must only send the ball above head height, and the player is allowed up to 3 touches. So that's a challenge for the player. I'm going to play the clip. You'll hear me do the demo, and there's a couple of examples as well with each one. So I'll play it first, and I'll talk through it.
We're going to play overhead tennis. So the only shot you can send over the net is a high five. However, you get a maximum of 3 touches. So it could be 1 touch, 2 touch, high five. Or it could be 2 touches. It could be a 1 touch, 2 touch. It might don't eat it. It might even, if you're super quick, it might even be 1 touch. Yeah. So it has to be a high five to send. Oosh. Wow, what an ep. Oh, I love that. 1 touch. Oh, 2 touch. There we go. Tap high. Tap high. Hit high. Yeah, there we go. Tap high. Tap high. Tap high. Tap high. It's all right. Here we go. Oh, whoosh. Oh, I love these. Here we go. Oh, okay. Okay, okay. Okay. What? No way.
Oh, man. So a couple of things. You may notice that the red court is changed. So this is what we call the red plus court. So this has been out for a couple of years now. I know the LTA here in the UK adapted this with LTA Youth a couple of years ago. I know maybe the ITF have similar court sizes now, but it's just a little bit bigger. I can't remember off the top of my head how much bigger it is, but it's a couple of steps bigger. But you'll notice a couple of changes. One, it's a bigger court. Again, for the life of me, top of my head now, I can't remember how much bigger it is, but it's the net there is on the orange baseline. And then you've got a baseline between the service line and net, and then the same distance off the back of the court as well. So the court's bigger, so the court's longer. We're using a red felt ball. The issue of a red felt ball on a traditional red court is the court's too small. The ball's just too quick and travels too far. And that really affects how the players use a red felt. And again, red felt, you have to use it outside because you can't use sponge. But if you use a slightly bigger court, and the great thing about the Red Plus court is you can get 4 mini nets on a court anyway. The downside is obviously you got to put a few additional lines out. But we did a group session after this. This is a private lesson, but I then did a group session afterwards, and I had 12 players. And all we do as me and my other coach is we get the nets out and the players put the lines out, because we've got little markers on the court there to show them where the baseline that goes, like a little black line, so they know. And then the players set them out. So while we set the nets out, the players set the lines out. So it doesn't really take that much time. It takes a little bit of practice getting the players to set it up. But the court's bigger, so therefore, okay, we're now starting to make the court longer. It's not as it's the same width, but it's definitely longer. We're now introducing the red felt ball as well, so they're dealing with a quicker and heavier ball. But because they've got that extra space, it becomes a lot easier to use. From a perception element as well, we're changing the view of the player. So I know it in this clip here, just because we've got the camera facing this way, but my side, I can now see down the proper tennis court, or the proper tennis court, the full tennis court. So I'm starting to get used to looking to a bigger distance. I'm looking down at a real tennis court now, rather than looking from the side of a tennis court. So I'm opening that perceptual field as well. So that's the environment and the setup. With the game itself, it's a really tricky one, and you can see with the player. I'm just going to push it back, and I'll let it play out, but I'll mute it as I'm talking through it. But you can see with the player that it's not easy. Yeah, she struggles with it, but she's meant to struggle with it because it's above her head. So the idea behind the exercise is, okay, well, if you touch it above your head, she's going to have to adapt and adjust to hit an overhead. So that's going to help with things like inconsistent ball toss. So again, we know at red that ball toss is really tricky. And the issue I have with coaches is we teach a perfect ball toss, and perfect ball toss doesn't exist. So here, she's learning how to adapt her body and her racket based on the ball going all over the place. Plus, we're also bringing in elements of the smash. And it is messy, and there's loads of mistakes. And again, I think the original clip here was like 10 minutes. And I just sort of clipped out ones where she achieved a little bit of success, but I also put in ones where she's struggling. But that's okay, because she's learning. And again, sometimes as coaches, we look at this and we start to panic and we start to fix straight away. But you'll hear in the clips, like, I'm not really coaching. I'm encouraging, and I'm just trying to help her find a solution. Now, towards the end, we changed the rules slightly, and we said, okay, you're allowed as many touches as you want until she feels comfortable. She can send it over, and then she started to achieve a little bit more success, and shocking smash by me. But again, she's got multiple ways to play. She's got decisions to make. She has to find multiple solutions. She's taken in lots of information, not only information of when I send the ball to her, but then she's trying to work out when she's got the ball, how she's going to get it above her head. So goes back to my slide before. And guess what? The players love it. It's really fun. It's such a fun game for the players to use. So that's the 2-touch overhead send. So the next one's very similar. Again, I want to try and bring the serve in as much as possible, but the issue again we have with serve, it's quite challenging at red. And some federations, some national governing bodies don't really encourage an overhead serve at red, because, like, again, physically it's really tough. So they really encourage underarm serving. I'm a big believer, okay, just at least just a tap above the head is better than an underarm. I want them to start to explore that space above their head. So I don't do any underarm stuff. I'm getting, even with my players, first and second serve, generally, I would even give them the option going underarm. Rightly or wrongly, again, maybe player centered and not giving them a choice. And people like Kyrgios haven't really helped with that as well. But I don't want them to have a fear of going overarm. So I don't really talk about the underarm serve at all. I always talk about, okay, high five to start. The next one's called stop and serve. The intention of the game is to allow players to have variable practice with the serve in various areas. Can they explore and recognize opportunities to win with the serve? So the game itself involves the players play points, but at any stage of the rally, the player can stop it and catch it. And when they stop and catch it, they can serve from that position. So I want the variable practice. So the player serving from lots of different areas. But then I'm also saying, okay, can they recognize maybe to stop it when they're under a little bit of pressure? Because if they stop it, they can catch the ball. Can they maybe stop it and catch it in a positive position, so close to the net, and maybe smash the serve down? So they're my intentions and the challenge of the player. So the challenge of the player is, can they adapt their serve from multiple different positions?
I'm going to high five. We're going to rally. Same thing. We can call it the serve. You want to call it a serve. We're going to serve. We're going to rally. But at any stage in the rally, we can stop it and then serve from there. So you can control when to stop and restart the rally. All right, Ken. Right. I will start off the challenge. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop that one. I'm going to catch it. I'm going to restart. I'm going to be... Okay, here we go. Ooh! Hang on. The only condition when you catch it, you can't move your feet. So you can move. So you can't move your feet. So you're going to serve from there, yeah? That's okay. That's okay. Take your time, boss baby. Boss lady. That's a great serve. I'm going to catch it. You ready? Oh, got that one. Oh, what a good catch. Can't move your feet now. That's a great. It's too good for me. What?
So again, just getting the player to explore starting the point with the serve. And you'll notice in a lot of these practices that every single point or rally or practice, we always start with a serve. I'm just making the serve just part of the game. And I even say it there at the start of the demo or the start of the instruction. Okay, we're going to start with a high five. She goes, oh, you mean a serve? I mean, you can call it a serve if you want. Again, the player is so used to serving here. It's not a big deal for the player. And even with me on the far side, again, me setting an environment, I'm trying my best to play like a 7-year-old. So I'm not playing with heavy spin. I'm playing Eastern forehand grip. I'm just tapping the serve over like they are. And I'm making mistakes every now and then as well when I think that maybe a red player might make a mistake. And that's very hard for me to do because I'm not a 7-year-old. I'm a 41-year-old tennis coach. But again, hopefully now you start to see a theme about the game. There's lots of learning going on within the game. And you can see my interactions with the player. I'm not really talking that much. And I've sort of clipped out some of the interventions because I'm going to use that a little bit later on for a different presentation. So when I do talk with a player, again, if you watch any of the previous masterclasses when I'm actually doing full sessions, I'm just asking questions. And the game here is doing all the teaching for me. 2-bounce steal. So now we start to go a bit more towards traditional tennis points. So the intention here is to get the player to explore spaces in attack and defense. The game will also test performance skills. So the challenge here for the player, if the ball bounces twice, you steal all your opponent's points. The first point of the game is worth 10. So the first point is huge. You want to get off to a good start. It's worth 10 points. If the ball bounces twice on your opponent's side, you steal whatever points they have. So the intention here is, one, can they be proactive? Can they get the ball away from their opponent? A lot of junior tennis, especially, is hitting the ball back and forwards to your opponent. So I want them to start getting the ball away to try and get the ball to bounce twice. On the flip side, they've got to defend. So they've got to make sure that they don't let the ball bounce twice. You're going to see things like recovery, repositioning, but also sort of heart as well, of chasing every shot down and making sure they get a racket to every ball because they don't want to give 10 points away. Kids love this game.
You ready for the next challenge? So this is called 2-bounce steal. So the first point is worth 10 points. If you win the first point, you get 10. After that first point, every other point is only worth 1. Don't sit on your racket. You want to fall. But here's the rule. If I get the ball to bounce twice on your side, I steal all your points. However, if you get the ball to bounce twice on my side, you steal all my points. So, can you get the ball to bounce twice, but also make sure it doesn't bounce twice? Would you like to start the game, or would you like me to start? Oh, I like that confidence. Okay, 1 bounce. Okay. One
Give me a
bounce.
chance to get ready there, did you?
1 bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. Oh no! That's 10-0 you. Oh, I'll start this time with the ball. Hey, here we go. Oh, 1 bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. Oh, that's just out. So I only get 1 point now. Score on the door is 10 points to 1. And it's your start. One bounce. Here we go. Can I get the ball to bounce twice? 1 bounce. Oh, 1 bounce. Bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. 1 bounce. 2. He's taking all my point. Oh my word. Well, you got 10, you won 1, and you stole 1. 12 love.
So again, just a really simple game. And again, like we win points in tennis by getting the ball to bounce twice. So you can see there in the very last point, like she brings me in and gets the ball past me with a passing shot cross, and just getting her to explore spaces. And what I like about that game as well, as like I said before, it's the defense part as well. So they don't want you to steal their points. So they're chasing every ball down. So again, they're using their heart and legs. If you want to use a Spanish term, there, they're chasing every ball down. And like for me, like what's more effective, getting the player to stand still and hit a ball cross court and then down the line off a single ball feed, or getting them to play a game like that. Like to me, they're two environments, both working on the same thing. But you see there that the player again goes back to the thing, using information, making decisions, seeing what influences are on. Because obviously she wins the first point and goes 10-0 up. Imagine if she went 10-0 down. And then so the next set, I might do that. I might make sure I win the first point. So, okay, now can you deal with being 10-0 down rather than 10-0 up? So you start to bring in different influences and stuff as well. So that's one of my favorite ones. And again, these games the kids love. And when you find, if you ever come and watch me coach and I give players autonomy, okay, what game do you want to play? You'll never hear my players say, let's play Jail or Cross the River or Around the World. What are classic traditional tennis games, which are fun. Most of my players say, okay, can we play 2-bounce steel? Can we play 2-touch tennis? Can we play some of the games that we'll sort of look at in a minute? Because again, to them, that's all they know. Again, it goes back to culture and environment. If you only play the traditional, silly, isolated games like Jailbreak or Jail or Around the World, that's all they want because that's all they know. So in this environment here, hopefully you can see the benefits of playing tennis. And that's what we're doing. We're basically playing tennis, but with a really good, clear intention of what I want the player to explore. So next we have the Superpower game. So here I want the players to start exploring their strengths. And at red, it's quite tough because they're not very self-aware at this stage. So they might not know what they're really good at. And they probably definitely can't recognize weaknesses on the other side as well. But as they start going to orange, and that orange is the real ideal time to start developing some weapons, whether that be the serve or the forehand, generally in the modern game. But I want them to start to explore finding different ways to win. So the game here is before every point, the players have to nominate their superpower. And at red, it's quite simple, forehand. If they win using their superpower, they get 3 points. If they win without their superpower, they get 1 point. So again, I want the player to start to explore different ways of winning the game.
Superpower is going to be my serve. What's your superpower? Your forehand. So if you hit a forehand and win, you get 3 points. If I hit a serve and win, I get 3 points. Oh. Oh. Oh, just out. It's only 1-0 me.
So in this clip here, she's nominated her volley as her superpower.
Don't forget your superpower. What? No! And you got 3 points. It was a great volley. It was like a low half volley off the toes. Unbelievable. 5-3.
So obviously quite a short clip, that one, just 2 examples, but hopefully get an idea for the game. And during the course of the game, it's interesting because like you'll see them start to change. Like she said volleyed her, and that was a response because I said volley the previous point, and I came in and volleyed and won 3 points. So she's always copied or mimicked me. But getting them to just explore, trying to find different ways to win. Again, rather than just, okay, hit the ball away from your opponent. Okay, great, but how? Again, just letting them use their imagination and just silly names like Superpower. As to most kids now, especially with like Marvel and DC, they love superheroes. So you get them to be their own personal superhero and sort of just tie into that as well. So last game's called Chance. So again, this is quite a challenging one at red, but I want the player to start looking for more opportunities to win. Very similar to the superhero game. And in the game, during the points, the player has 1 opportunity to shout chance. If they win on their next shot, they get 3 points. So I'm looking for the player to see affordances or opportunities to win here. So it might be a short ball. It may be the opponent's out of position. Quite challenging at red, but I want them to start to, again, this is all about information. Can they start taking in information either based on their opponent's position, based on the incoming ball, or based on their position? Can they start to see opportunities to win the game? So the game's called Chance.
Oh my God, you read my mind. You just read my mind. You know, we're going to play a chance game. Can you remember how to play? When do you shout chance? Well, it might be. So when you see a chance to win, you shout chance and you win 3 points. Oh, wow. Well remembered. Can't believe you've just read my mind. It's your turn to start. We'll carry on our score.
That goes back into what I said before. Like she's played this game before in the squad, and you can see like straight away. I start off this. Okay, we'll do the next challenge now. And we did it before. Pardon me, this cold is killing me. But you can see there, like she remembers because it's a game that she enjoys and a game that she finds fun.
6-5 to chicken dinner. Yeah, it's in. Oh, love the idea. What was it that you've seen that you thought, chance? Okay. I was quite far back. Okay. I maybe. Oh, very clever. I love the fact you've seen the opportunity, you've seen a chance.
So again, just a very quick example there, and then that's how the game generally works. So when she says chance, she will go for it, and then I'll probably say, okay, why? What did you see? And now I won't do it every point because then just becomes a very stop start. but I'll look for maybe ideal situations, so short ball, or if I'm way out of position. But just okay, what did you see? And no matter what she says, oh, okay, it's a good idea. And if she maybe quite hasn't found the right information to use, I might sort of probe with a couple more questions. And also, what I missed out there in the introduction is she can ask me as well. So if I say chance, she can say to me, okay, what did you see? Because I want her to do like a peer-to-peer learning bit as well, where, okay, can she sort of then learn from me and what I say? But just getting the player to start to scan and see the information in front of them. With all these games, they're quite basic, they're quite simple. But for me, again, they're tennis. And I've mentioned before about the illusion of learning. Like, we could have these games where again, traditional coach me would set this up where I give a short ball, player attacks the short ball, because that's a chance to win the point. But here I'm getting the player to use their perception and action skills. They have to see the chance. They also have to develop and build the opportunity to get the chance as well. What's going to be more impactful for our players? Basket feeding and them just attacking short balls, or playing a game like this? I know I'm biased, but I definitely think this is more efficient and effective. The last game, I've not got a video for this one, but it's a really good game. It's called Roll With It for those Oasis fans. So the intention is to get to explore playing from various score situations. And the way we play it is I have 10-sided dice, or die, whatever you want to call them. Each player rolls dice. And whatever number you get, you have to win that number of points to win the set. So let's say I roll a 10. I've got to get 10 points to win the set. You roll a 1. You've got to get 1 point to win the set. And it goes back to that influence before. Okay, so the score has a huge impact on how our behavior. Our behavior has a huge impact on our movement. And all that has a huge impact on our performance. So just a really good, fun game to get the players to explore playing from different positions, because tennis is weird, especially with junior tennis, because in football, if you're 5-0 up, you're probably going to win and you're probably going to lose. In tennis, you could be 9-0 up and lose, because there's no time limit. You can't run the clock down in tennis. And a lot of the time, especially with juniors, because of their experience with other sports, they struggle to be 2 or 3 points behind in tennis. They don't see the reality of the game of there's no time limit. And just because you're losing 3-0 doesn't mean you're going to lose the match, because you could win the next 10 points at red. And that's what I like about this game. It just gives them that experience of playing from different positions. And hopefully, and I've seen it lots in lessons, a player can come from their opponent rolling a 1 and then rolling a 9. They can go on and win. Because it's interesting, because a player, if I roll a 9 and you only roll a 1, the player who rolls a 1 might switch off. So their behavior might change because they think they're going to win. And that's what I love about that game. I haven't got a clip, unfortunately, because we ran out of time with the player in the videos of filming, but really try that one out. 10-sided dice, get them on Amazon. Really, really cheap. A couple of pounds for like 10. Just be careful, because players and coaches steal them. I did a workshop the other day at the PTR conference, and someone took a dice. I don't know who it was, but someone took it. But yeah, a couple of pounds, but massively worth it. So hopefully you've seen there some examples of how I develop the environment. And the environment to me, yes, it's part of the game, but it's not just playing a game. It's thinking about all those things behind it, which we'll look at in a few minutes, in terms of got to give them stuff to use, got to give them information. The game has to present them with options and different ways to play. They've got to make decisions. They've got to find movement solutions. Like, to me, those games that we've just seen, the 5 or 6 that I've showed, they're really that holistic approach. And in all those games, we've seen volley, forehand, backhand, serve. We've seen attack. We've seen defense. We've seen neutral. We've seen playing points. We've seen winning. We've seen losing. We've seen coming from behind. We've seen dealing with unfairness, losing 10 points, first point, stealing points. So it's the whole thing that, again, goes back to the slide I showed before. To me, that's what tennis players need. And that's my position that I see myself as a tennis coach. Okay. What do players need to play the game? What do they need to meet the demands of the game? And with all those games as well, like, you start to see, they start to use a serve as a weapon. So they start to, again, if you think about the stop and serve game, okay, can you actually get the serve into a position where you can actually smash it down? And lots and lots and lots of serving. In all those games we served, in every single practice, generally, my players are serving. getting the players to explore coming in and playing around the net as well. One game that I didn't showcase, which I didn't have time for, either at the conference or when I was filming, is okay, you could then say, okay, once you serve, ball can't bounce on your side. You start to get the player to explore volleying a little bit more as well. But again, if you look at the modern game now, players are comfortable in all areas of the court. They're not just sticking at the baseline no more. They're comfortable coming in. They're comfortable serve volleying. They're comfortable playing in and around the net. Therefore, even at red, even a lot of red tennis neglect the net play because the ball's slower. They really haven't quite got the ability to put the ball away. But I want the player to start developing those net skills and to start developing confidence in and around the net. Players start at this stage now as they transition from red to orange to start developing weapons. And again, they're not going to be the weapons that they're going to use the rest of their life, but just start to think about how to win points, how using certain shots to win points, and they'll have a preference. I want to win with my forehand all the time. Some players, and you've seen the little girl in the video there, she picked a volley. So she then might want to start coming in, exploring winning points to the volley, but start developing weapons to win points and just start to develop self-awareness about their own game, about what they're capable of doing and any gaps that they need to have, but just start to think about themselves. And also now start to have a little impact on, okay, what's happening on the other side of it as well, which at red is challenging. But I want them to start really thinking about their own game and how they can influence the game with their weapons and their skills. So we're coming to the end of the presentation. Hopefully we have a good idea now of the lesson environment and the culture and the importance of setting the right environment for players. I've hopefully given you some ideas of how we can use ecological dynamics and construct-led coaching to help not only set the environment, but to get the players ready for Orange. I changed the environment and changed in terms of the court size, but then also if you think about all the outside influences, such as the score, the opponent's position, stuff like that. And we've obviously gone through over a few practice designs. Most of those practices that I put in the videos, they are in my resource part under practice designs as written PDFs. So you can download them. There's loads on there, approaching almost 60 downloads. Now I keep adding to it every now and then. When I think of good practice designs, I put them in there. From later this year, I'm looking hopefully September, I'm going to start putting just video clips so you can go in and just have a little look at games. I'm currently working on a filtering system. So make sure you can go in and you just click a few filters and that gives you the list of videos. I'm also looking at video hosting because believe it or not, video hosting is quite expensive. So they will come later on within the academy. So you'll have a library of videos. We can just go in and watch a 2-3 minute video. Again, it'll be me with a little demo and then a little couple of clips of examples as well. So that's quite exciting to come in the academy. Free gift. This is for the conference users. As an academy member, you get access to all my books. If you go again under my resources and my books, you get the books and obviously your academy members. One thing I would say just before we finish is please, 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 could you start to share when you use the academy content either in your clubs and you take videos or pictures, please tag me at My Tennis Coaching. I really want to build this coach community up around the world. We have quite a few coaches now within the academy, which is great. A lot of them are what I call sort of shadow coaches. So even though we've got lots of coaches in there, a lot of coaches are still quite reluctant to share or to talk in the forums or take part of the roundtable and stuff, which is absolutely fine. I get that 100%. But if you do start to use this stuff, and if you see value in it, start tagging because I want more coaches in. Because the more coaches we get in, the more ideas and the better and stronger we become as well. If you go to the website and go to my affiliates at the bottom, every new coach you push forwards, you can get $75 as well. So you can actually make some money from joining people up. That's if they join the annual membership, a little bit less if it's a monthly membership. And as always, get in touch with me over at Instagram at My Tennis Coaching. Email me, steve@mytenniscoaching.com. As always, apologies for the cold, the sneezing, the coughing, the sniffling, the wet nose. But I want to get this content up because I know people have been messaging me saying, can we see a copy of the presentation from the PTR UK conference? So I wanted to get up. So apologies. This is the only time this weekend I've got to film. All the kids are out at the cinema, so I've got some time. And yeah, as always, thanks for your help and support in the academy. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, hopefully you found this useful. Speak to you soon. Bye.